But it's always game day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata here. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing pretty great. How are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. We're getting a huge winter storm this weekend, and I guess it's a good thing the Bengals aren't home and playing on Sunday.
Yeah. I wonder if that's hitting me. So
It
trying to
could.
figure
It's
out 'cause
something you
I
want
don't
to
know.
monitor. Yeah, but it's a big week. Saturday football for the Bengals. They don't have a short week because they played on Saturday. When it comes to their injury report this week, Chase Brown didn't practice. Definitely something to monitor. He obviously left the game late, dealing with a high ankle sprain. Amarius Mims questionable. T. Higgins currently questionable. If Amarius doesn't go, it looks like Cody Ford will start in the place of him, and then Cordell Volson will be back out there. They're obviously banged up. Cam Taylor-Britt also added to the injury report on Thursday afternoon, hurt his ankle later in practice. So this team is going to Pittsburgh, facing a team, AFC North, at night, primetime action, where Pittsburgh is currently on a 3-game win streak. And I do not think they want to go into the postseason 0-4.
No. Okay, so I have a few updates. One, it's actually Saturday is going to be supposedly snow showers with snow showers every day leading up to it. 24 degrees. I'm going to have a terrible time. 16-degree low. Oh my god. um, Two, are we 100% certain that it would be Volson left guard and Ford right tackle? Because when this happened in game, it was Cochran right tackle, Ford left guard.
It's $1 million question. $1 million question. I always
I didn't
think
know
when
if that was like from a practice thing or because I don't always keep up.
Cody Ford was getting starting reps at right tackle.
Okay.
And Orlando Brown Jr. was out there at left tackle. So,
Okay.
look, anything is
Seems
possible.
likely
This
then.
offense, yeah, the offensive line has been musical chairs for months now. And when you have Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa in the interior, I almost feel like anybody you put out there is an upgrade. And Amarius Mims, I don't know if you want him going against TJ Watt with one hand, but it might be better than the alternative.
Yeah. I think it would be because it was last time. I think Ford's just better at guard than he is tackle. Still has like plays where you don't want him to do what he does, but he has less of those at guard than he does tackle. I think with Mims, you give him a lot of help to the outside. You were going to do that anyway with TJ Watt, right? You're going to try to
Mhm.
help a lot on that anyway. Watt has been pretty unproductive the past couple of weeks ever since he suffered an ankle injury. Not to say that that means he's going to do it again, but it would be injured on injured too. So I find that interesting because I keep up at least a little bit with the Steelers with my house life. Um, Other than that, like I would want Mims out there, even if it is with one hand,
Mhm.
see if he can go. Because I thought he did his job for the most part on Sunday. Maybe it's a pain tolerance thing. Maybe the team wasn't as happy with it. Maybe they just wanted to stop giving help to the outside over there. They wanted to open up the playbook a little bit more. Not to say that it was completely closed off, but there are plays that you want to get 5 guys out in the pattern without running one of them into a edge rusher. You want to get an empty, and they couldn't do that maybe. So I could see that, but on the other end of it, he does a better job. Even with one hand, he does a better job than the alternatives. So for me, I'd like to see that. I was going to check this. I was looking at the Steelers injury report with Roman Wilson. He's just a healthy scratch, huh? See
Yep.
full practice out. Cole Holcomb, Logan Lee. The only one I see with a designation tag that matters is Dante Jackson with questionable. So I don't. I think they're pretty healthy for this game.
Yeah, they are. They are. And they were battling some injuries too. And yeah, that's obviously, you look at the Bengals injury report right now, they're pretty banged up. They've been banged up for quite some time, obviously getting guys back. But when you think about this offensive line, it's just what it is. It's really unfortunate. You wish you had more health in the depth department and even starters. But Joe Burrow's doing everything he can while he's out there, which is even more impressive. I think, with T. Higgins, I still think that it's kind of similar to last week. I know he was wearing the little brace during practice, but again, they've been taking him limited last week, the week before, and I think that's smart. But I'm still expecting T to be out there. The Chase Brown, that one is. I don't know what to think of it because he didn't practice all week. He was dressed today, but he was on the side. So it would be a bummer not to have Chase Brown out there, especially for the last regular season game and what could be their last game of the season. We'll see if Khalil can step up and Joe Burrow doesn't have to throw for 60 attempts. And if he does throw for 60 attempts, more than likely we get a triple crown wide receiver. Joe Burrow probably getting to the 5,000 mark of the season. So, hey, they might end it on a positive note, but overall, they are dealing with some injuries to their key guys.
Yeah. Furthering some of the TJ Watt talk, because I was curious, I was looking at that too. For the top 35 guys in pressures, because that's how many it sorts for me in NFL Pro, he is tied for the lowest pressure percentage with George Karlaftis. It has been probably his worst season as a pro. Wow. And the only reason I'm bringing all this up is, you find it crazy? He's like the favorite, the betting odds favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's not even the best defensive player on his own team. It's kind of insane. And I don't think he's a good player. I'm not saying anything wrong there. He's an elite player. He is not having his best season. Like I mentioned, ankle injury happened. But I just find it so interesting that he has 11 and a half sacks. It's not like he's lapping the field in sacks. I mean, 11 and a half puts you tied for fourth with Kyle Van Noy, Andrew Van Ginkel, Nick Bonito. And kind of feel like it's hard to make the argument that he is both better than them and better than the guys in front of him as a pass rusher. As a run defender, sure, he adds value there. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much more it is with the injury. Haven't watched too closely, but I do know from watching anecdotally, man, they're not giving a ton of help to his side, and he's still not affecting the game that much. So you hope that continues. You don't bank on it. You don't just go, yeah, they'll be fine. Watt stinks now, but you kind of hope that you just get maybe we get a game from TJ Watt that's not an elite level performance.
I'd like him to stay away from Joe Burrow a little bit. He got put a little too close.
Very, very good against the Bengals. I think that's the other frustrating part.
Yeah, and watch this be a bounce back game for him as they go into the postseason. And I don't need that. And Joe Burrow talked to the media too. One thing when you watch Joe go against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he admitted it. You're going to turn the ball over. It happens. They make crazy, freakish plays all the time. And with a banged up offensive line, I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. Joe is, I know the fumbles were a concern this year, but overall he's done a really good job as far as the interception number and what he's been able to do out there. But, you think about this matchup overall, it'd be nice. And again, I know it's kind of hard to look at the glass half full because I thought about it today. Yeah, the playoff scenario is still there. They still have an opportunity to control what they can control, and that's winning on Saturday night. Then you worry about Sunday, and you hope for the best from Carson Wentz and what could be Aaron Rodgers' last game in the NFL. But overall, you had those opportunities. It's really unfortunate to go into this weekend to be what could have been in several games this year. I say all but two. I'd say the Eagles game, while they were in it, the fourth quarter got a little lopsided. And even in the fourth quarter of the Steelers game, they had an opportunity to come back from what was a 2-score lead. And they just couldn't find a way to finish that game. Defensively, they collapsed, and it's absolutely embarrassing what they let Russell Wilson do. And and the Steelers haven't looked good since. So that's what's really a bummer about it all in those games that they could have had, because they could have had the Steelers game if you could have stopped them defensively. And that was something that they couldn't do. So right now, it's a little bit of a bummer the way it looks kind of going into this last week. I'd love to be wrong, Mike. I'd love to be recording a podcast next week and saying, oh my gosh, let's talk postseason football. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to take on the Buffalo Bills, what should be a fantastic football game. But right now, this is the reality. And Saturday is a big game. It's prime time on the road. It'd be nice to even it out with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were able to sweep the Cleveland Browns. Couldn't get it done versus the Baltimore Ravens, but, getting another one in the AFC North, having a winning record. I know how people feel about the draft picks and everything like that. That would be a positive going into the offseason, because Joe Burrow even said after they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers early on, it's really, it's going to be telling the guys in the locker room, how they finished the season. And here they are, 8-8, and have that opportunity to take one from Pittsburgh. So when you look at this matchup overall, I know the defense for Pittsburgh hasn't looked like the same defense that the Cincinnati Bengals normally face. And you just mentioned TJ Watt and kind of how he's looked over the last few games. I won't count him out. I feel like he'll be fine out there for some reason. He likes to have the Cincinnati Bengals number.
Yeah.
If T. Higgins is questionable, but I'm still expecting him to go out there. Hopefully, he's out there. Last week, T. Higgins went from questionable to an insane football game. Jamar Chase, again, huge game for him. What could lead him to the Triple Crown? Probably no Chase Brown. Offensive line is musical chairs. How do you feel about this Bengals offense going against the defense?
Yeah, I they were good against them last time, so I don't know how you could be that against how they play, but at the end of the day, it's a good defense that's currently not playing well,
Mm-hmm.
and these games sometimes have a tendency to get that defense back on the right track. I think I've seen that plenty of times against the Bengals, even Joe Burrow's Bengals. But there's also times where they've really taken advantage of defenses that are struggling that used to be good during the season. I can think of a few games like that. So I could see this going either way. I think the Steelers are going to have the advantage up front. They usually do when they play. You've got Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Keanu Benton, just a murderer's row of defensive linemen, along with Patrick Queen and whatever they have, Landon Roberts and Peyton Wilson next to him. But Patrick Queen's a solid player for sure. The other guys are more like role players or interesting than they are good right now. On the back end, I think the Bengals have the advantage. Usually, how that goes. Joey Porter Jr. picked up, I think, 100 flags against T. Higgins last time they played. So if Higgins plays, that's big. I feel like Higgins plays. I don't know though. Just he has been limited. It feels like the past few weeks, every week, and then he's played in practice and gotten the questionable tag, and he goes out there and guts it out. So I feel like he plays. You got Jamar Chase, obviously. The Steelers' back seven has been. What's interesting is if you get into Steelers social media, there is like this conspiracy about who is messing up things on the back end of the defense.
Saw that.
Yeah. And people are like trying to point fingers. Is it Minka Fitzpatrick? Is it Cam Sutton? Is it whoever? Because guys have left like low records, like Patrick Queen said something like, yeah, when we're not playing as a team, we need all 11 playing together, and we don't, guys get out of position, blah, blah, blah. So they're trying to figure out who's playing bad. But what that means for the Bengals is they're not playing as a cohesive unit right now. Maybe they pick it up. Maybe that becomes a point of emphasis. Maybe they're able to pull it together and have one of the greatest defensive game plans you've seen. But if I had to predict it right now, I would say the Bengals go down there and score. I think they're going to score in this game.
All right. Flip sides right now.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, I will. I'll give my little prediction a little bit when the offense. I agree. I mean, just the way Joe Burrow is playing this year, and I don't know if you caught the Hard Knocks. I didn't. Someone had mentioned the final clip or towards the end of the game where Joe Burrow's like, "Man, the season's almost over. Our regular season's almost over, and I'm just getting started." And it's really unfortunate because this is what Joe does. Anybody can pull his numbers from December to January and he just goes insane. And it's just, man, if this team could have just, again, not to go too far back into it, but took one of those games that they lost. This isn't a team I would want to face in the playoffs. I really wouldn't. I think this is one of the best offenses. And yes, I know the Bills are rolling. Yes, I know Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are rolling. And even Kansas City, their offense looked flat most of the season, and they started to look better towards the end. This would be fun in the AFC picture. Nobody wants to see the Miami. No offense to Denver, even though they're more than likely the team that will get in. Nobody wants to see that Buffalo. Come on. You want to see Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen? At least I do. I want to see Joe Burrow. Mike wants to see Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen. Obviously, I don't know. It would be awesome. So kind of to get back to that, this offense, I believe in it. I think that I will never count out the Steelers defense. They could play bad every single game of the season. And then when they play the Bengals, I'm just like, here they are. Here they are. They're at home. It's going to be crazy atmosphere, I'm sure. I have a feeling Baltimore's going to win against the Browns because the Browns really look like they're actively tanking. But the Steelers are playing for seeding. Would you rather go play an AFC North team, or would you rather play another team the first round, like the Houston Texans, who haven't really looked that great most of the season? So this is still a huge game for the Steelers, and they're not going to sit starters or anything like that. So I think it's still going to be tough, but I believe in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to move the ball, even if Chase Brown doesn't play in this game. And this is an opportunity for Herbert to say, like, look, hey, maybe you keep him on the roster and you see more from him in 2025 with Chase Brown. But kind of flipping to the defensive side, like I mentioned, Cam Taylor-Britt got dinged up in practice on Thursday. Some could say that they'll miss him. Others could say we'll see what happens in the cornerback room. A lot of youth out there we're seeing over the last few weeks. What are you expecting from this Bengals defense who simplified things over the last few weeks? The young guys are out there versus Russ Wilson and the Steelers offense.
Yeah. Dang, I tried to look at the Bengals injury report. The only thing that came up was the Steelers. uh, so this is the unit I don't feel as good about. And
That's
part of
fair.
that, yeah, I feel like there has been a little bit of, to me, it feels crazy to just like contribute all of the more recent success just to, it was too complicated. They simplified it. To me, the simple solution is they play against bad teams. And against the Broncos, I was ready to eat my words. And then the second half happened. And I was like, got a miscommunication in quarters, give up a touchdown. Where was the simplified defense there? Where was it on the final drive, the 2-minute drill where they just diced them all the way down the field easily? I know the touchdown was hard to catch. Nothing else on that drive was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I have little questions of like, yeah, is it the simplified defense or is it offenses playing poorly? Because I'm not sure. This is a big test. I think that last test was big. I don't know whether or not they passed or failed. They like passed the first half, failed the second half of that
Mm-hmm.
test. And I wonder if the Broncos had the cojones to go for two or to try to actually push the ball down the field if the Broncos win that game. Because I feel like that was the difference. I did not want to see the Broncos offense stay out there and go for two. I wanted them to kick and go to overtime. Because I
Mm-hmm.
thought, yeah, sure, 50-50 shot. Because I didn't think it was a 50-50 shot that the Bengals defense makes that stop. I think that was more 60-40, 65-35 leaning Broncos. I would give them the edge on that one. For the overtime, like, yeah, 50-50. And I think the Bengals have been the better team the whole game. I'm in. The Steelers game, though. Yeah, the last time they played against the Steelers offense, the Steelers offense isn't good. It's not like a good offense. It's an average, probably ish, somewhere in that tier of like an average-ish offense. They're not a good offense though, and they looked great against the Bengals defense. I when I watched, I would say they got a lot of depth a little too quickly and allowed for a lot of small gains to turn into big gains. And then when they tried to get out of that and play underneath and to come up with answers, Russell Wilson was able to find the weak points of this defense and stress them. So you got to have an answer for this because it feels like every other team is able to slow down the Pittsburgh offense.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bengals, I think if the Steelers needed to score on that final drive where they just had to pick up a first down and kneel it out, I think if they needed to score, they would have scored. And it would have been a 50-point game from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense that struggles to put up points in some of these games. This is a big test for me because I said it about the last one, but I'm going to say it with this one more. I know the Steelers offense could beat up the bad Bengals defense. If this Bengals defense is still bad, I'm expecting them to score 30 something. If it's better, then they're probably going to stay in the 20s. And if it's good, they should be able to stifle them.
Yeah.
We'll get to the predictions, but that would be where my brain is with the defense. Whether or not Cam Taylor plays, I don't know.
I know.
I think it matters. I think he's been better over the back half of the season. He was so bad to start. Well, actually, he was so bad after the very start. He was kind of peaked in that Chiefs game. And then after that, it was all downhill. It's come up a little bit. I think he's been a solid corner. They're playing Marco Wilson already. He was out there. I don't feel great about having Marco Wilson out there. I feel fine about Newton. I feel fine about Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
But Wilson's the guy I go, You get a little DJ Ivy maybe thrown
Yeah.
in there into the mix, especially maybe to cover tight ends in third and longs or third down general. Yeah, the only point I can make for this defense against their offense is I think that you'll get more edge production. I think when you get somebody who's not Sam Hubbard going against Broderick Jones has struggled pretty much all year. He put together a good game against the Bengals, and a lot of that was he faced 94 a lot of that game. So I want to see Broderick Jones go against this current Bengals group, because I think that wherever you think of these guys, maybe you don't think this way. I think Miles Murphy, Joseph Osai, and Cedric Johnson give you about an average level defensive performance. I didn't think Sam Hubbard was doing that. Sadly, I want Sam Hubbard to play better, but I mean, he played. I'm trying to find the snaps for that game. I feel like I remember he played a ton of snaps in that game. He played defensive snaps, 49%, 34 defensive snaps. So 49% of those plays get to go to players that I think have more juice. A little less than I was expecting when I looked at it. But overall, I want to see that. I want to see them punish the right tackle and left tackle for the Steelers, because I think their interior is going to win. Most of the interiors have won against the Bengals interior, but I think that you could push those guys. I think you could beat both tackles. Dan Moore's played better this season, but Trey Hendrickson has traditionally been very good against him. And you need to see guys not miscommunicate. You need to see neither safety throwing their hands up like what's going on, or corner, linebacker, whoever looking back like where was my help. They need to play as a cohesive unit. They need to be able to slow down this Pittsburgh offense, because Pittsburgh scored 44. They scored 44 points in that game against the Bengals. And other than that, they've got 2 30-point games in there against the Raiders and Jets, which happened in week 6 and 7. And over the past few weeks, I mean, I guess you had week 14, they scored 27 against the Browns. But other than that, man, you're looking at 10, 17, and 13 their past 3 weeks, which is actually less points combined than they scored against the Bengals in week 13. You need to be able to do something. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to stop them to 10, 13, or 17 points, but there's no way they should be scoring in the 30s in this game if this is a NFL quality defense.
No, I agree with you. If you remember, right after Russ had that game, people were wondering if Russ Wilson was back. And I had to try and tell them this was the Bengals defense. I do not think Russell Wilson is back. He faced the Bengals defense, which was a liability. I mean, goodness, there were so many times this season, Mike. You look at that almost sack on Lamar Jackson when he made an insane throw for a touchdown in the game at home. I think about oh my goodness, the Commanders game, all they needed was one tackle, and the defense couldn't even tackle one time to stop them. So I agree with you. I think you can look at these last few weeks and say, was it the defense is getting better, or was it the opponent? I would love for this test to come true, the youth to continue to step up out there. I think you bring up a good point when you think of Cedric, Joseph Asai, and even Miles Murphy. That's an upgrade out there versus what they had with Sam Hubbard. I want this to be good for the defense, because a lot of these young guys are going to be back next year for the youth of the defense, and maybe they'll earn a starting role, or maybe they'll be depth, and they need that depth, because you look at the season and they could use depth in a lot of areas. So I would love for them to step up in this game to show this would be a test. This would be a really good test going into the offseason if their season does end this weekend, that, hey, there is something to take from this defense going forward. And I know it's Russell Wilson and it's not a super strong offense, but hey, they put up 44 against them. So I can't count them out too much when I think about this matchup, and this would be a perfect get back game for them. But when I think about this game, like I said before, it's a obviously must-win game for the Cincinnati Bengals to stay in it for another 24 hours or hopefully more. I think about the over in this game, and for me personally, I got to go over. I do think that Joe Burrow and the offense will do enough to get into the 30s. I'll say 30, 24, because I still think Russ can cook with the defense that he's playing against. And I'm expecting a Jamar Chase game. I really am. I think this is you know what? T had his. He'll probably maybe get in the end zone once, but I think this could be an Uno twice type of game. And Joe Burrow, really, he might need to throw it around 50 times. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I don't see the run game being too effective either. I think Herbert's a pretty good runner, but I talked about how I think the Steelers just have the advantage up front. And when you're running into a disadvantage, I think that's an issue. Are you surprised that the Steelers are 1.5 point home underdogs?
No, I mean, you
I am.
normally get you are.
Yeah.
Vegas loves the Bengals.
Vegas does. It's actually been very good money to go against them.
You
Most
know how
of
many jinx bets I have on the season that I've walked out of the stadium with money because I jinx bet the Bengals?
it's a good move. Yeah. Especially if you're
Makes me
going to the
sad.
game.
Makes me
It's going
sad.
to be extra emotional after. Um, Yeah, I was surprised by that because I thought the Steelers. I'm not saying it should have been because you think of like a 3 point for whatever. So if it was an even game, would be 3 points to the Bengals at home, 3 points to Steelers at home. This is swinging 7.5 points towards the bank. Like if this was in Cincinnati,
Mhm.
this would be a 7.5 point favorite, like a 2 score favorite is basically what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if the 2 scores better. Like I think the
No.
offense is. I don't think the defense is. But home field in the NFL, especially for Bengals fans, they know it hasn't been all it's been cracked up to be sometimes. So I'm surprised by that. I think the Steelers could win this game, but I am going to pick the Bengals. I'm riding. I'm hoping pick with the heart a little bit. I think this is a game traditionally, as a fan, I've seen them drop this game a lot of times in my life. I've seen them get to this game here against the Steelers
Mhm.
and lose it. But I think they win this. I think the Steelers offense won't be as good. But I think they're gonna be better than what you said. Because I think it's gonna end up being not that much better. I'm going 31-27 Bengals. I think the Bengals aren't gonna have issues moving the ball on offense. I don't think the Steelers are gonna have that much issue moving the ball on offense, but it'll be a little bit harder on them. I just find it hard to believe a team could go 3 straight games scoring under 20 and then end up in the 40s again. The only teams to give up 30 plus points to
Remind
the
me.
Pittsburgh Steelers. When I said that, the Bengals, Jets, and Raiders. Think of those teams, especially Bengals, Raiders. The Jets had the hype coming in, but they've been nothing since pretty much this entire season. They've also been bad. So the bad teams have let them score. Everybody else keeps them at least a little bit in check. Even teams like the Browns and the Commanders defenses, they're keeping them under 30. And then good defenses are able to stifle them. I don't think this is a good defense, but I do think that they should perform better in this game on the road, weirdly.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking 31-27, something like that. Pittsburgh loves field goals. I think that is one thing we
Mhm.
can also bet on. I know because I picked Boswell in my fantasy league. They love getting to a 4th and 1 at the 37-yard line and sending Boswell out there versus trying to just pick that up with whatever they have on offense. So I think they get an extra field goal from you, but I think the Bengals also end up at 31. I wonder if the Bengals even try that field goal. I'm trying to think of how they get to 31. It's like
They
I guess
might.
you
They
probably
might
trust
go.
Cade York early in the game, but if it's like game winner, I don't think they're trying to win the game on a Cade York field goal unless they have to.
Yeah, if I were to choose the kickers to hit a walk off, you know who it would go with. I mean, Pittsburgh, they have a reliable. He's a Pro Bowler too. Not that that means too much these days, but Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Trey Hendrickson were voted to the Pro Bowl, and they deserved it. They are having an insane year, and it was good to see that. But yeah, it's I still expect it to be a sloppy game and a lot of frustrations at time. And you said there could be a chance of snow.
Yeah, currently the weather looked like it said snow, and it said
Mhm.
snow the previous 2 days as well. Luckily, because Pitt uses that stadium too, the college season is over. So the field shouldn't be destroyed when
All
they get out
right.
there. Yeah.
All right,
It's
should
still
be a good one. I hope on Saturday or when we are doing a recap after Steelers and Bengals, we are saying, look, now there's only 2 to go. 2 more things to go for them. Holding out a lot of hope. I know the percentage is like 14% right now, but if you win, it gets even closer and it makes Sunday a little fun, I think, in the afternoon. So hopefully the Bengals pull it off, get to 9-8 on the season. Would love to see awesome games from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to hit those records just because they've had an insane year. And if it doesn't go as planned for them this weekend, hopefully they have a huge offseason with a lot of decisions to make and hopefully some to make fans pretty happy. Mike, do you have anything coming up on Bengals talk?
Yeah, I'm getting the McKinley Jackson article eventually. I know I've been bad this year with this stuff. Just
Look,
had a
it's
lot
been
go
tough.
on around this time. So but yeah, I getting the McKinley Jackson article out. I do think I might postpone it though if the Bengals make the playoffs for playoff content. I think I would have to push that back, which we'll know after this week. Just doing a preview on the Bills and then I like to turn it up in the playoffs because those games are super important.
Yeah.
But yeah, McKinley Jackson, if they don't make it, playoff preview if they do.
Make sure you check it out. Go follow Mike over on X. Bengals_Sands. You can follow me at LNDS Patterson. Hopefully everybody is happy on Saturday night. Bengals get a win. And thank you for listening to It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati.